You mentioned how when you were there, you were basically engaging the populace and how they were furious at their government for even thinking about trying to negotiate with the West. And now you're starting to get stories like this. Trump calls Iranian leadership extremely duplicitous after Tehran denies new talks will start Monday. Jen, you've been saying for a while that Iran is not actually talking to Trump.
No, and I'm sure, and Dimitri, I know that you know Professor Morandi, and I am a huge fan. I have not met him. I just love him from afar. But anyhow, so I watch people like that, and I know that the Iranians are not speaking with us. They're not speaking with us. I don't even think they're speaking with us through intermediaries anymore. I really don't. So when he says that he's talking with them or they want to talk, I'm is he hallucinating it? Are they putting him on the phone with people? Like, this is what I've been asking, Dimitri. Like, you know, parents pretend to be Santa Claus maybe to get their kids in line. Like, is somebody pretending to be Iranian and talking to Donald Trump so he thinks he's negotiating? I don't know.
Well, he's certifiably insane, right, Chen? So it's hard to say whether he believes it, he's making it up. But, you know, the foreign minister of Iran today is not even in Iran. He's in Najaf, the Shia holy city in Iraq, because there is a very important event taking place there, an important pilgrimage for Shia Muslims. So he's in no position. He's actually attending religious ceremonies in the holy city of Najaf. As I said, there's tremendous anger amongst the population about these negotiations, and the Assembly of Experts in Iran, a powerful group of clerics, they're the ones who actually appoint the new supreme leader. They put out a statement about the utter futility of negotiating with the Trump regime. Why would anybody negotiate with Trump? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense after they pretended to be negotiating in June of last year, and during that pretense, they bombed Iran. They did it again on February 28th. They were pretending to be negotiating. They bombed Iran, even though the Omani government said just before that bombing began that the Iranians had made quite impressive concessions in the negotiations over their nuclear program. So it makes, and then the MOU from day one, the United States government was violating it 6 ways from Sunday. So it doesn't make any sense that the Iranians would negotiate with Trump. Now, what is going on in his mind? I think, first of all, he might be very generous with the truth in the sense that he might be asking certain mediators like the Qataris or the Pakistanis to communicate some message to Iran, and maybe Iran is communicating some message to the mediators. So he might be calling that negotiation, or he just might be completely making it up. It could be a total fabrication, and his motive for doing it is quite clear. I think he has a powerful motive to lie about this. Number one, he wants to calm down the oil markets, and he claimed, it's not a coincidence, that he said on the weekend that the negotiations would resume midday on Monday, hours after the markets open. Okay, so, and sure enough, the price of oil, last time I checked a couple hours ago, had fallen about 5% today, which is a pretty big reduction in the price of oil. The other reason, quite apart from wanting to suppress the price of oil, the other motivation he has to lie is that he promised the American people that he was going to be the president of peace. And this is a wildly unpopular war. The polls show that, you know, nearly 80% of Americans want it over and done with, and that a strong majority of Americans never wanted it to start to begin with. And so what he's trying to do, because the midterm elections are coming, and he's posturing as somebody who's making a genuine effort to get peace, and he wants to be able to blame the Iranians for the failure of the negotiations, or perhaps he's going to blame the Russians, or he's going to, find some other culprit. He doesn't want to be blamed by this at the end of the day by the American voters, and so he's pretending to be engaging in vigorous diplomatic efforts. So I think he has a motivation to lie about this. The Iranians have no motivation to take part at all. And there you have it.
I would suggest that no country ever should have any deals with us. And it doesn't have anything to do with Trump per se. I would suggest that we've never maintained any agreement that we've ever made with any group of people, starting with the people that were here before us. And so why would anybody make an agreement with us, especially Iran, since what we did with the JCPOA? Like what universe would they think that we would honor any agreement?
Well, we don't.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree. I wouldn't negotiate with the U.S. government. And by the way, it's not just the U.S. government. I wouldn't negotiate with any major Western government, whether it's the British, the French, the Germans. These people are pathological liars, and they cheat relentlessly.
Yeah, the only way to negotiate with these people, like I've said, is like Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element. That's how we've gotten where we have to negotiate now.
No, listen, we're having a great, excuse me, we're having a great negotiation. We're having a great time, and we're going to make a big deal, great deal. And we'll
apparently Dimitri's seen Fifth Element. He knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. Anybody else want to negotiate?
Anyone else want to negotiate? That's what we're dealing with here. That's the only language that these people understand.
Indeed.
You know, we've said for a while that the Strait of Hormuz is basically checkmate, and everything that Iran has the capability of doing, and I have felt this from the very beginning, that this was our checkmate. Economically, this was our checkmate. That essentially what Iran was going to do in a very calculated strategic maneuver is effectively tell the West and tell Americans in particular, you have two choices. You can save Israel or you can save your ass. Take a pick, because you can't have both. You want to save your economy? We will allow you to save your economy, but we're taking Israel out. And I guess the head general of the Iranian military came out earlier today and specifically said, made an announcement to people living in Tel Aviv and all over the stolen country that you better, if you're going to get out, you better get out now, because we are going to rain holy hell over Israel. Like, that's coming. And I believe them. I don't think Iran would say that if they had no intention. They may not engage us or want to engage us militarily in that regard. But as far as Israel is concerned, I believe that they're on borrowed time at this point. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. There was a report just came out in Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, that the level of emigration from Israel is at a record level. That was data relating to 2025. I suspect it's even worse now in 2026, but we're not going to have that data for some time. And I'm sure that the Israeli government, by the way, is suppressing the extent of departures from the country. But you can see this where I spend almost half the year. I spend half the year in Greece. And I also have family living in Cyprus. And Cyprus and Greece are overrun with Israelis.
It's an infestation. It's an infestation.
They're snapping up private residences, businesses. You see them in hotels. There was actually a political advertisement on a billboard in Hebrew that was posted outside the airport in Latanika, right? It ended up getting splashed with the colors of the Palestinian flag. But they're actually, and in the Athens airport now, you can see huge signs that are in Hebrew. Nobody can understand them except people who speak Hebrew. So that's how many Israelis are flooding into European countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. So that's the first problem. The second problem is a purely military one. It's not just demographic. In fact, the military problem is the greater problem. And a brigadier general, a retired brigadier general by the name of Yitzhak Brik, who has been an outspoken critic of Israeli policy towards Iran, just came out with an editorial in which he said that if Iran wants to destroy us, it can. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. We simply don't have the capability to stop massive destruction of our infrastructure with Iranian missiles and drones. And I know, people, there's been a lot of talk about how this problem could be solved if they could only increase the rate, the Raytheon in particular, which makes the PAC-3 interceptors for the Patriot air defense system. If they could dramatically increase the rate of production, which is very slow, that they might be able to solve this problem. But the fact of the matter is that even if they had all the interceptors they could possibly desire, they're not going to be able to take the ballistic missiles down. As Professor Ted Postel, one of the leading weapons experts in the United States, has been saying, and he backs it up with careful analysis, the Patriot system and this is the PAC-3 version, the most sophisticated version of the interceptor missile, takes down less than 3% of the ballistic missiles. So the problem is not simply that the US military and the Israeli military have run out of interceptor missiles. The problem is that they don't work to begin with. They can take down drones, they can take down slow-moving cruise missiles, but the ballistic missiles, which travel at hypersonic speeds when they are hurtling towards the Earth, they're almost untouchable. So Israel's in very, very serious trouble, and they're extremely fortunate that Iran for the last few months has been focusing on US military bases.
Well, the Iranians have a certain amount of honor, and they are not going to retaliate against a country that isn't directly striking them, right? So Israel's been playing this very kind of careful. They only pick on people that can't defend themselves. That's what cowards do. So that's their thing. And do not get me wrong, I am so happy to see us having our asses kicked out of West Asia at this level. It is so glorious to watch. But yeah, we don't understand that level of honor. So it's hard for us to fathom. Why would they not do that? Because they're not disgusting like we are like that. That's why.
Yeah.
No, and they have a culture that actually has history and appreciates what it represents. And obviously, politically, there are differences. But, we see it here in this country. We see the Iranian diaspora and what a joke they are and how much of it is based on class. I have a friend who lives in South Florida who never lived a day there, but he talks about the liberation of Iran like he was born there. It goes without saying that universally, and this goes for Israel, this goes for pretty much anything, as the empire of the United States continues to collapse. Everything is essentially based on class, and it's based on economics. The people who are sitting in comfortable positions in life are always the ones who will defend the system that screws the rest, but benefits them. Class traitors are hard to come by. Cultural traitors are even harder because they have a sense of identity that doesn't make any sense. Again, what is there? There is something to be said about what America is supposed to be, what it could be, but it's anything but that. We are a walking, I'm forgetting the word, but everything that we claim to represent, it's the complete opposite.
A walking contradiction. And yes, we are that because we're the bad guys. Yes.
We are. And the one thing I want to play really quick, because again, I want to get back to this key economic point, which I think really emphasizes what the issue is here and why everybody was wondering what was going on with Spain and Morocco the other day. This all gets back to the Strait of Hormuz and how economically global commerce has moved. And the powers that be, with the likes of Iran, which has the backing of Russia and China, and BRICS, quite frankly, which is the economic future of the world in many respects. This is what happens, and this is what is our future if we do not end this overt imperialism around the world.
Okay, guys, let me explain what is going on because shit just got really interesting with the situation with Morocco and Spain. Okay, so what's important to understand is all roads lead back to maritime access for Israel. Israel currently has 6 ports. 5 of the ports transit through the Mediterranean into the Straits of Gibraltar, and 1, Eilat, transits through the Red Sea, going through the Bab el-Mandeb. Prior to the Iran war, Israel was also receiving imports for natural resources like oil and gas through the Straits of Hormuz, going through the Red Sea. So 6 days after the US and Israel launched a war against Iran, Iran banned all ships bound to Israel and the US coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. On June 8th, the Houthis of Yemen joined the blockade and banned all ships going to and from Israel that transit through the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb, similar to what happened in 2024 and earlier in 2025. So now Israel is limited to only one maritime access route through the Mediterranean. But there is a risk involved because similar to the Bab el-Mandeb, that is a choke point for the Red Sea, and the Straits of Hormuz, which is a choke point out of the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean has a choke point, which is the Straits of Gibraltar, which is controlled by Spain. Spain is a problem for Israel because they have taken steps to break diplomatic ties with Israel.
I would say that the walls are closing in on them economically as well. Safe to say?
On Israel, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Israel's got a big problem. So this is, I think, quite an important video you just showed, because the vast majority of reporting I've seen around this in the alternative media has postulated that this is a manufactured migrant crisis, and it is, and the villains are ultimately Washington and Tel Aviv, using their control over the Moroccan autocrat, who, by the way, I think he was filmed drunk in the streets of Paris the other night, but that's another matter. They used him, and desperate. I mean, there's a huge youth unemployment rate in Morocco. There's a lot of young people who are trying to flee the country and to go to more prosperous places, and they use them effectively to punish Spain for its relatively pro-Palestinian posture, and also its refusal to allow its military bases to be used by the United States to attack Iran. Now, this is entirely plausible, but I think there's something more going on here. It's not just punishment. It's not just creating problems for Pedro Sanchez, who has been by far the most admirable European leader when it comes to addressing the genocide in Palestine and the war of aggression on Iran. But immediately following this manufactured crisis, I do think it was a manufactured crisis.
Right.
There's lots of evidence that people were actually being bussed. Young migrants were being bussed to the border of this Spanish enclave on the northern coast of Africa. In any case, immediately following this crisis erupting, 22 EU states called for an emergency meeting to discuss the migrant crisis there. This is a guess, and we'll see whether or not it turns out to be correct. But I think what's going to happen when this emergency meeting is convened is that they are going to insist that the EU naval vessels from the EU collectively, effectively take control over the Strait of Gibraltar. Because the Spanish government, they'll argue the Spanish government and its military are incapable of preventing a massive influx of migrants from Morocco into Spain without the assistance of other EU member states. And why will they do this? Because they may be concerned, and they have good reason to be concerned about this, that Spain might use this narrow choke point to apply pressure on Israel and say, we aren't going to allow Israeli-linked vessels to transit the Strait of Gibraltar. We aren't going to allow weapons to be shipped from the United States to Israel. There's a significant chance that Sanchez would do such a thing. And quite apart from that, right now, there is just a global war happening now over maritime transportation. It's happening all over the world. It's not just in the Red Sea. It's not just in the Strait of Hormuz. You see European navies are boarding Russian-linked shadow tankers. They just boarded another one. They're seizing some of them. A number of these tankers have been hit. So there is a clear attempt on the part of the United States government and European governments to use their naval power to restrict the flow of maritime traffic in ways that are very damaging to the three principal rivals of the West, China, Russia, and Iran. So I think this is a setup for the EU, and if it's the EU, it ultimately will mean NATO and the United States, seizing control of the Strait of Gibraltar?
They're going to try. We got a little bit more to go here, but this is, like I said, there's a lot to take from this, which is very valuable.
To break diplomatic ties with Israel. Even more important is that they have also restricted arms shipments to Israel because of the Gaza genocide. Spain barred U.S. military vessels and aircraft carrying weapons or munitions destined for Israel from utilizing Spanish military facilities like Naval Station Rota and Marone Air Base. Spain also restricted its airspace and denied use of joint bases Rota and Marone for U.S. military assets linked to operations and strikes against Iran. So where are Rota and Marone located? Right on the Straits of Gibraltar. So if you're Israel and you need to regain control of this access point, what do? You look for allies who are willing to support your genocide and your war in Iran, like your Abraham Accords partner, Morocco. Then you get your allies in the U.S. government to push to have Ceuta and Melilla, Spanish-Moroccan territories, redesignated as Moroccan territory so that you can have greater control over the Straits of Gibraltar. You even get members of Congress to allocate funding for this endeavor. But because you need public support from Europeans and Americans, you orchestrate a fake migrant invasion into Ceuta. And then you claim that these migrants are reaching Europe and this is a public crisis. Except the narrative quickly fell apart as footage showed Moroccan police, allowing the migrants in, and in some cases, inviting them to cross the border. Reporting showed that these young boys under the age of 20 were encouraged on social media to go to Ceuta. In some cases, they were told that the Spanish government wants them to come. Then precisely 24 hours later, the White House releases a statement. The United States has been clear. We recognize Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara, and we support Morocco's serious, credible, and realistic autonomy proposal as the only basis for a just and lasting solution. Any other path prolongs the status quo and is unacceptable. The urgently needed solution will only bring peace to the region, but prosperity and greater integration for all of Africa. This dispute must end now, and the United States will continue to drive progress toward down further south, securing maritime access through that whole region under Morocco, a U.S. ally, and an Israel ally, Abraham Accords member, and a country who has a military security agreement with Israel. So the moral of the story, boys and girls, is that another weekend passed by and we saw another escapade where young boys lost their lives. 57 were reported to have drowned, trying to swim to Ceuta. And the U.S. military also reported that we don't have enough destroyers to protect Israel.
And there it is.
Yeah. I find that to be a very compelling explanation for what has happened. And by the way, Western Sahara is illegally occupied by Morocco. They have no authority under international law to continue the occupation, let alone to annex it. And that was, as I think the speaker might have pointed out, that was the major benefit that Morocco got from signing the Abraham Accords, is that Washington agreed for the very first time in history to recognize Moroccan sovereignty over this occupied land. And by the way, if Trump really wanted the violence to end in that part of the world, what he would demand is that Moroccan forces withdraw from Western Sahara. Instead, he's trying to legitimize the theft of Western Sahara, which is a guarantee that there's going to be more violence in the future.